Welcome, I'm Lizzie Brooks, and this is Lizzie Brooks Yoga and Fitness. Today's class is 10 RAD Yoga Transitions. These are fun, effective, they're not just done to be super weird, they actually can help the body. So please come and join me on your mat. Okay, so the first one is from a low kneeling position, and so obviously you'll step 1 foot forward, you'll have one knee back. The back toes will tuck, you'll rise up to hovering. And then we do usually a lot of stuff from here. We kind of come to standing, we might go wide and come into goddess. Instead of that, what I'm asking is that from here, and we work internal and external rotation with this as well, is that you lift up to hovering and then rotate into your goddess squat. And then from there, you can directly rotate into the low kneeling lunge on the other side. You can even stay hovering the entire time with that and not put the knee down. So that's completely up to you. Really, really like that one for mobility and strength of the hips. The second one, this one has been so much fun. It also, you really do want to warm up the shoulder for this and also the hamstrings. So I'll show it to you, but if you're going to do it, please do warm up. From downward facing dog, you will take, and I'm going to move over a little bit so I'm a little more in your frame. Lifting up the right leg, I'm going to bring that underneath me and cross diagonally. I'm going to try to get that kind of closer up towards my hand, but it doesn't have to go that close. I'm going to cross underneath, and I'm going to rotate, lifting the left hand, right hand down into a wider legged position here. Maybe you go into an Upavishtakonasana, and then you can come right back the way that you came. Right hand down, lifting up, so you can see how that looks. Hand comes down, cross underneath. You can even cross into that 3-limb dog as well. So bending, tapping to the side of your foot, lifting the left hand, and coming up like so. And if I was teaching you a class, I'd be mirroring you guys, but I'm not mirroring on this one. Okay, this one I really, really like because a lot of times side plank isn't for everybody, like a full side plank. And what we normally have them do as teachers is we'll say, okay, come into side plank or maybe stagger-footed side plank. And if that's too much, then we step the foot forward. But I like this one that kind of tiptoes you there a little more easily. And what that is, from downward facing dog, you step part of the way, so maybe halfway up, and then just rotate into your side plank, or modified side plank rather, from there. So then people don't have to do the full posture, woo, and then change it, okay? They're already there. For number 4, I really love this one, and I get a lot of really fun feedback about it. People like to kind of take it home and try it. If you can't do it with a full ring around, this is kind of like a ring around the rosy, fingers touching, you can also add a length of a strap. You can even grab a block to add some length. So I'll show you what I mean. Coming into your standing balance with the leg forward. We're going to do that thread through ring around the rosy. So you take the tips of your fingers together, make a little circle like a ballerina, lean forward, thread your foot through to go into that leg forward, and then your transition is to thread it through into a warrior 3. So if you need a little more length to kind of clear the foot through that loop, you can hold on to a block or, again, as I said, a strap, and work the arms a little differently. So we're making a circle, which is taking the scapula a little more to the sides than if we were reaching the arms forward. So it's working the shoulders differently, the balance, and you get to do a little bit of that playing, trying not to touch your hands and your foot together. For number 5, this is also really fun and effective. For tabletop position, a lot of times what we'll do is we'll come into our tabletop, we'll do our posture, maybe we'll do something with the legs here, then we'll come down all the way down, and then maybe we'll come to all fours. Instead of that, and also working the shoulders, working the core, inner thighs, quads, lifting up from here and crossing one leg over in the direction that you're going to take your tabletop. So if I'm taking my tabletop over here to the right, I'm going to cross my left leg over and turn my right hand back. So my wrist is turning around. Excuse me, my fingertips. I'm going to cross over and then go into my all fours position. Or I could cross over and go into hovering. Okay, same way you came into it, coming out, I would turn the other wrist. So rather than fingertips pointing towards the hips, I'm going to go to the left. So I'm going to cross my right leg over, crossing at the knees, turn my fingertips back, toes down, rotate into hovering or all fours. And so this can be something that you do over and over, or maybe just once or twice. As you can tell by my talking, it is cardiovascular. The heart rate goes up, the breath rate goes up. Something that kids love, and you know, adults, sometimes we need to get a little more playful like children, is in our Gomukhasana transitions. So those are our cow face pose transitions. So something like this. And a lot of times what I see is we come into this, and then we shake the legs out, and we go and do the other side. Sometimes people can't quite get that full crossing, and they're kind of stuck here, so they have to lean forward a little bit, wiggle the legs forward, and come back. I find that if there's no knee issues, that's a very key. If there are no knee issues, you can actually come from here into a fold and right to the other side. So what that entails is taking your toes, pointing them away from you, okay? And then leaning forward, lifting up, and switching into your wider footed forward fold directly into other leg on top Gomukhasana. Now, you'll have one way you'll be able to go and one way you won't be able to go depending on which leg is on top. So if I try to get up and I'm twisting towards the inner thigh of my upper leg, I'm going to be very stuck. But if I do the open twist and I go the other direction, I'm going towards the foot of the top leg, then I can put the fingertips down, go into my fold, continue around in that same direction, and back into Gomukhasana on the other side. That really gets into the hips as well. For number 7, this is another one that for students who have knee issues, I would not teach this one. And that is from our squat. So a lot of times we do a malasana squat with the feet wider. This would be a squat with the feet closer together. This is pretty tough for a lot of folks. Same thing with doing our pistol squat, which is bringing one leg forward. You push the femur head into the pelvis, you're totally foot down, sole of the foot down on the other leg. Then the transition from here is to put the heel down, then let the other heel lift as you're shifting more into the arch and the toes of the other foot and coming into a lunge here. Okay? You can either come into lunge or even a straight leg. Bending back, reaching forward to counterbalance, and coming back into the pistol squat, feet back together. Okay? So again, I have knee issues sometimes. Today I made sure the day that I'm doing this video, the knees are a-okay. Tadasana, step outs to tadasana. A lot of times we do things where we maybe come to one side, we do something over here, we come to the other side, and usually our transition as teachers is to take people into center and maybe back up from there. But what I'm asking is starting in Tadasana and ending in Tadasana using a step out. Now these are amazing. You'll feel your inner thighs and your hips and glutes the next few days after doing this, if you do enough of them or if you even use a weight, incorporate a weight. As you step out, you're already creating a lunge, you're creating a bend in the knee. And then from here, I like to almost pretend I'm sliding something up, so working the shoulders as I slide the leg in. Now we're gonna go to the other side. Remember, I'm not stepping with a straight knee and then bending. I'm going to bend as I come down and slide up, okay? Stepping with the bend, maybe hands go to the waist. Stepping with the bend, maybe arms come up. But you're using this slide technique and also a soft bent knee landing to the side technique, which we don't do very often and can strengthen and open the hips in a whole new way. I find that very helpful. Number 9, let me catch my breath. I'm kind of rapid fire throwing these at you, and if you need to write them down, pause and write them down. So, Ashtavakrasana to Kauniyasana 2. This is much more advanced, and this is something that if you're teaching more so in an arm balance class or something like that, please do not teach this transition in a beginner class or in a class where people are not expecting arm balances. Okay, so we have our Ashtavakrasana, which is taking one leg kind of over the shoulder. You have to hunker down a little bit, lifting up, hands down, crossing at the ankles, and bringing the legs more forward than to the sides. Now on the transition, the lower leg comes in, bends the knee, threads through, and then you come into your Kauniyasana posture, and careful coming out of that. So bending that extended leg and bringing it back in, rather than thinking the leg has to stay extended to come back, especially if that hurts your lower back. So that is, I'll try to show you from a slightly different angle, and I don't want to go completely out of the frame. We'll see how this goes. Ashtavakrasana, lower bent knee comes up and in, and then you bring yourself back into your Kauniyasana 2. It's a really fun one. It takes a lot of time to work up to it. And yes, that heart rate is definitely up. The last one that I want to show you is one, in yoga we do a lot of repetitive things. This is something you've probably done hundreds of thousands of times in yoga, but maybe not gotten as much bang for your buck as you might like, as in terms of strengthening the glutes and the hips and hamstrings. So we have a tendency to work the quads more than the hamstrings, and we want to make sure that we get anterior chain as well as posterior chain. So when we step back from lunges, which happens all the time in yoga, we might do something like this. We're in a bit of a chair pose, we kind of lift up the hips, bring the leg back, and then create our lunge. What I'm asking you to take a look at, and you don't have to do this every time, but if you want more strength in those glutes, is to stay closer into the depth of that bend in the knees, that hinge back of the hips, where you're in that deeper seat, not lower than the knees, and you keep that hip height as you step back and forward, as you step back and forward. Again, rather than lifting, stepping, creating, you already have the front of the lunge created, and you simply create the back of the lunge. So that is number 10, and then I have one more that I just thought of that I love to use in terms of getting more of the musculature on board and the directionality of the posture a little more engaged, and that is in standing split. So standing splits is a really challenging posture, and of course we need strength, but we also need hamstring opening, hip opening, that kind of thing. And it's a balance of sorts. So instead of, a lot of times we see our standing split from warrior 3 or a lunge, low lunge, and the direction is more so back, and we go, okay, now take your leg up and now just bring it higher, 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 okay? Instead of that, I like to think of coming in like a rosebud and hugging everything towards center, which means you're keeping your standing leg straight, or maybe with a micro bend in the knee, but you're taking that back leg, the one that's eventually going up, you're bending it in, you're hugging towards that midline. And then instead of from straight back, you're already pointing the toes and spreading the ball joints and putting them upwards. And then from there, you take that standing split up, rather than here and just trying to kick it up. So that's just another thing to think about in terms of bringing yourself towards the midline to then bloom out, and see if you can get a little bit more musculature on board rather than just kicking towards the sky. So I hope that you enjoyed this. Please let me know in the comments if there are any other ones that you like to do. I'm always interested in trying new things, and I learn just as much from my students as they learn from me, if not more. So I hope you have a beautiful day, and if you like this video, please hit like, please do subscribe, and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Namaste.